Welcome to episode number 338, and this episode is devoted to Ojas, which is essential for our longevity, for our physical and mental health. It's our prime immunity and vitality and energy reserve. I'm going to talk about the types of Ojas, the disorders of Ojas, and how to ensure that we have good quality and quantity of Ojas. So please stay tuned. Hi there, I'm your host Colette, and on this podcast I will be sharing the teachings of Ayurveda, yoga, and holistic health practices. Now, if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend checking out the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. Thanks for listening, and now here's a new episode. Hey there, and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. It's Colette today. For a solo episode, I'm talking all about Ojas. And I've talked about Ojas a lot throughout the podcast over the years. And recently, in episode number 335, Ayurvedic Guidelines for Managing Sexual Energy, I talked about how the management and balance of sexual energy is of paramount importance to the flow of Ojas. And in episode number 337 with Kate O'Donnell, we discussed the importance of Ojas in relation to hormonal health. I've talked about Ojas a lot. However, today I want to devote this whole episode to Ojas as it's so important for our overall health and well-being. Ojas is the end product of a healthy digestive system. And in summary, our food is broken down into an elemental juice, which nourishes all the 7 tissues of the body, the 7 dhatus. And they are rasa, which is plasma, rakta, blood, mamsa, muscle, meda, fat, ashti, bone, maja, bone marrow and nerve tissue, and finally, the reproductive tissues of artava and shukra, the female and male reproductive tissues. And the byproduct or upadhatu of this entire process of nutrition of the tissues is Ojas. So essentially, Ojas is the refined essence of the 7 bodily tissues. I discussed the nutrition of the dhatus in detail in episode number 92, titled Ayurvedic Nutrition of the Dhatus. And I'm always quoting this episode as it's so important to understand this process and will really help you to understand the importance of Agni, our digestive fire in Ayurveda. So if you're not familiar with this process of nutrition of the dhatus, then definitely check out episode number 92. Now, there are 2 types of Ojas. There's Apara Ojas and Para Ojas. Apara Ojas, which is inferior or unprocessed, is circulated by the heart throughout the body. And then para Ojas, which is superior and is located in the heart. And according to Ayurveda, 8 drops of para Ojas or superior Ojas is stored in the heart, which controls the heart and mind and maintains our consciousness. A para Ojas, or the inferior Ojas, is dependent on para Ojas, the superior Ojas, in the heart to flow throughout the body. If the 8 drops of para Ojas in the heart are destroyed or depleted, it will no longer function. So a para Ojas can no longer flow as a result. And this can cause lots of serious issues, which I'm going to discuss in a moment. Ojas is the subtle energy of the Kapha dosha, and the 10 qualities of Ojas are cold, unctuous, soft, smooth, slimy, sticky, heavy, stable, mobile, and sweet in taste. Ojas is our prime energy reserve, our vitality, and our natural immunity. Optimal Ojas is called Ojas sara in Ayurveda, and a person with Ojas sara will have the following characteristics: great mental and physical strength, great endurance with plentiful reserves of energy, All the 7 dhatus or tissues of the body will be healthy, strong immunity. They will be loving, compassionate, and empathetic people. They'll have contentment in life. They'll be creative and have great mental clarity. They will have glowing skin, glowing eyes, and shiny hair. And they will have great health and longevity. And like any of the other 7 dhatus or tissues in our body, Ojas is nourished from that nutrient fluid, ahara rasa, which is made up of what we eat, broken down into this elemental juice. Ahara rasa contains all the 5 elements of space, air, fire, water, and earth. This elemental juice then nourishes all the tissues of the body, which each tissue taking what it needs before it goes on to nourish the next tissue in the sequence. Again, check out episode number 92 if you're not familiar with this process. Of course, what we eat and how we digest it is extremely important as it makes up our tissues. And this is why Ayurveda focuses on digestion, as this is the beginning of the nourishment of all the tissues of the body and determines the quality and quantity of ojas. And if our digestion is not working correctly, well, then it will affect all the other tissues of the body, and the end product of this digestive process will be affected, which of course is ojas. Therefore, the quality of our ojas is determined by the food we eat and the strength of our digestive fire. So what happens when ojas is out of balance? There are 3 categories observed in the imbalance of ojas. And they are Oja Vistramsa, where the ojas is displaced from its own site. Oja Vyapat, where there's qualitative deterioration of ojas. And Oja Kashaya, where there's depletion of quality and quantity. Now, in the first category, Oja Vistramsa is caused by the aggravation of primarily the Vata dosha, where the sub-dosha of Vata, Vayanu Vayu, is not functioning properly in that it's not circulating the ojas sufficiently from the heart. And this can result in the aggravated dosha moving to other areas because ojas keeps the doshas in their respective home sites. Kapha home site is in the chest, Vata home site is in the colon, and Pitta home site is in the small intestine. The causes of Oja Vistramsa are a Vata aggravating diet and lifestyle, Vishama or irregular Agni, digestive fire, stress, anxiety, nervousness, fear, and suppressed emotions. All these can cause Oja Vistramsa. And the signs of Oja Vistramsa are a dosha moving out of its home site. And this can be an indicator of the displacement of ojas. This could be Vata pushing Pitta or Pitta blocking Vata, leading to Vata aggravations. Other signs are aggravated Vata symptoms like stress, anxiety, and emotions swinging high-low, and fatigue. There may be a feeling of looseness and displacement in the joints, stiffness in the extremities, and blockage and impairment of functions in the body and mind. Oja Vistramsa tends to be localized, affecting certain tissues or dhatus of the body. The second category is Oja Vyapat, where the ojas is disturbed by a long-term imbalance of one or more of the doshas and due to the aggravation of Vata, Pitta, or Kapha. With this category, there's a qualitative and functional change in ojas. Where Oja Vistramsa was localized, Oja Vyapat can affect the entire immune system. And signs of Oja Vyapat are, well, let's break it down by dosha here because the 3 doshas can be involved. If there's Vata involvement in Oja Vyapat, there will be emaciation and difficulty in gaining weight, chronic fatigue, stiff joints, and confusion. If there's Pitta involvement, there may be psoriasis, eczema, dermatitis, gout, burnout, autoimmune dysfunction, rheumatic fever, Epstein-Barr virus, MS, HIV, sickle cell anemia, and lupus. And if there's Kapha involvement, there will be a slowing down in the circulation of ojas, leading to a feeling of heaviness in the body and mind, inertia,
edema or swelling, and excess sleep. The third category is Oja Kashaya, or depleted Ojas, which is extremely serious, as not only the quality of Ojas is affected, but also the quantity. Oja Kashaya begins with Oja Vyapat. And as I mentioned earlier, there are 8 drops of para Ojas in the heart. And if that's depleted, then the person may lose consciousness or may die. The causes of Oja Kashaya are a Vata or Pitta aggravating diet and lifestyle, Tikshna Agni, so there's a sharp Agni, digestive fire, depleting the elemental fluid, which nourishes the tissues and Ojas, leading to Pitta and Vata aggravations. Malnutrition or prolonged fasting, extreme stress or trauma, anxiety and fear, overexertion in exercise or sex, and chronic illness can develop into Oja Kashaya. The signs of Oja Kashaya are extreme Vata disorders, dehydration and dryness in the body, emaciation and muscle wasting, dullness of the senses, mental slowness, confusion and incoherent speech, chronic fatigue and weakness, chest pain, breathlessness, palpitations. There may be a weak immune system with repeated flu and allergies, bronchitis, tonsillitis, and being susceptible to infections. Emotionally, there can be a lot of instability and fear, and in extreme cases, loss of consciousness, coma, or death. As I mentioned earlier, the quality of our Ojas is determined by the strength of our Agni, our digestive fire, our main Agni in the stomach, Jathara Agni, and the Dhatu Agnis. And we want each of these Agnis working efficiently so that the process of nutrition of the dhatus or tissues is optimal, so that the final product is of the highest quality of Ojas. There are many factors that can affect our Agni, including the quality of the foods we're eating, how we're eating, our emotional state, stress, lifestyle, our relationships. So many factors that can affect the quality of our Agni and our Ojas. So let's break these down and discuss some tips about how we can ensure that we have good quality and quantity of Ojas. Starting, of course, with one of the most important things is diet. What are we putting into our body, and making sure that we choose high quality food and therefore avoiding ultra processed foods that are dead and have no prana, boxed or canned foods. Ideally, we're focusing on organic, local, and seasonal foods. Ayurveda particularly highlights ghee, dates, almonds, and organic milk as Ojas increasing foods. And I do have a great recipe for increasing Ojas with these ingredients, and it's a drink called Ojas, and I'll put that link in the show notes. So check that out, because that's a great drink to nourish Ojas. And as I mentioned earlier, Ojas is the subtle essence of the Kapha dosha, and therefore Kapha increasing foods will enhance Ojas with its similar qualities of sweet and unctuous. Foods like avocados, bananas, sweet potatoes or yams, basmati rice, just to name a few. Of course, these foods need to be tailored to each individual, as there is a condition of increased Ojas called Oja Vruti, where increased Kapha can result in increased Ojas, and vice versa. Increased Ojas can increase the Kapha dosha, resulting in Agni Manda, or a slow digestive fire, causing heaviness in the body and mind, edema, swelling, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, high blood pressure, glaucoma, lymphomas, and Kapha conditions like obesity and diabetes. Therefore, as always, I recommend getting professional advice that's tailored to you. Now, also, how you're eating your food is important, and the timing too. Eating only when you feel hungry, and making sure that you don't ignore your hunger signals or suppress the hunger with coffee. And eating in a calm environment, no multitasking or scrolling. Practicing mindful eating. Having your main meal in the middle of the day, of course, when your digestive fire is strongest, and avoid eating after 7 p.m. Hydration too is really important. Sipping on warm liquids throughout the day to aid digestion. Hydration levels are tailored to each dosha type, with vata needing the most because of the tendency to dryness, and actually kapha dosha needing the least because there's a tendency towards water retention. Now, sleep is another factor here. Ideally being in bed by 10 p.m. before that pitta energy rises and we get that second wind, which makes it harder to fall asleep. The pitta energy is for our internal house cleaning, digestion, detox, and rejuvenation. And so if we're awake and active during this time, our body can't devote all its energy to this process. So it's really important that we respect our body and prioritize our sleep. Our lifestyle has a huge influence on our Agni and our Ojas, and making sure that we have our daily dinacharya or self-care practices in place, like our waking and sleeping times, scraping the tongue, doing our Abhyanga oil massage, taking care of the senses, daily movement to promote circulation. That's appropriate for your constitution, and making sure that it's not too draining. Living in tune with the circadian rhythm to help establish a rhythm of eating, sleeping, and living in tune with the seasons by following a seasonal routine or ritucharya, and taking into consideration the season of life you're in too is important. For example, in the pitta stage from puberty to menopause, understanding that this is the doing phase of building a career, a home, a family. However, you have to be careful to avoid burnout during this stage. And then in the vata stage of life, post-menopause, you have to be careful to not deplete your ojas by continuing your lifestyle from the doing pitta phase. Because in this phase, post-menopause, you don't have the same resources available at this age to keep that pace of life going. And so you need to spend more time being in the vata stage of life. And this will help prevent Agni disturbances and prevent depletion of ojas. The best way to remind ourselves to just be is with mindfulness practices like pranayama, meditation, yoga, and time in nature. These practices remind us to slow down and connect inwards, bringing awareness to our emotions and taking time to process what we're really feeling. They also help us to relax and provide a buffer to stress, as ojas can be depleted by negative emotions. We also need to look at our relationships. Who are we surrounding ourselves with? Are they positive people we respect? Limiting time with people who drain our energy. I talked about managing sexual energy in episode number 335, as overexertion in sexual relationships can deplete ojas. So we really need to have a holistic look at our lives and see where we're having maybe bad habits or habits that don't serve us and are there affecting our Agni and depleting the quantity and quality of our ojas. So it's certainly worth doing a review because we see the importance of ojas. Let me remind you again before I finish this episode what optimal ojas or ojas sara is like. Great mental and physical strength, great endurance with plentiful reserves of energy. All the 7 dhatus of tissues of the body will be healthy, preventing disease, strong immunity. You'll have abundance of love, compassion, and empathy, contentment in life, creativity with great mental clarity, glowing skin, eyes, shiny hair, and enjoying longevity. So there you go, an episode totally devoted to ojas. I hope you found this episode helpful. If you would like support on your journey, please check out my online services on my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. I have online consultations, online Digestive Reset Cleanse, and my educational program, Daily Habits for Holistic Health program. That's a 28-day online self-paced program where I help to educate you on how to live in tune with the circadian rhythm and how to become your own healer. If you have any questions before you book any of my services, please take advantage of my free 15-minute online services call. We can hop on Zoom and I can answer all of your questions. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And if you think that this episode will be helpful to family or friends, please share it with them so we can spread this wisdom of Ayurveda. And if you haven't already subscribed or followed the podcast, please do so. And if you would like to give a rating and review, I would really appreciate that wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can find me on social media on Facebook under Elements Healing and Wellbeing, and on Instagram, my new page is Elements of Ayurveda Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.